Hey, hi guys. This is Arun Ramaswamy. I'm actually an Azure consultant working with ATAS India. So I will be presenting a series on Cosmos DB for the Azure development community. So this series will contain different aspects of Cosmos DB, like what is Cosmos DB, the different APIs supported, how do I access Cosmos DB through SDKs, and also talk about indexing. You have querying, you have query optimizations, you have partitions. How do I optimize or use the correct partition key to ensure like my query is optimized and I am spending less amount of money for retrieving the data or interacting with Cosmos DB. So these are different aspects that I would like to cover in this particular series. So to begin with, this will be a small session. It will be say like an intro session on Cosmos DB. So I will be covering what is Cosmos DB, also introduce you to the world of Cosmos DB, and also the API supported by Cosmos DB. Okay, and also I'll show you how do we create Cosmos DB using the Azure portal. Okay, so let's get started now. So to introduce about me, as I said, I work as an Azure consultant with Atos, and I hold Microsoft certified trainer, and there are different these are the certifications that I have completed. So I have also given you my LinkedIn, so you can actually follow me on my account, where I'll actually post few tidbits on Azure. So whatever learnings I have, or whatever interesting stuff I have come across in Azure, I'll be posting in my LinkedIn session. So you can actually follow me to understand or get to know few intricate details about Azure. Okay, so my inspiration for this particular session or series is basically the Azure Cosmos DB certification. Okay, so I actually found this certificate or this certification to be one of the toughest certifications that I have done till now. Okay, so I thought probably since I have come across many challenges while doing this certification, let me share my learnings across to the wider audience, so that if you are planning to do the Cosmos DB certification, this session will definitely be of great help to you. Okay, so with that, let me start off. First of all, what is Cosmos DB? So Cosmos DB is like a database solution, okay, offered by Microsoft in their Azure platform. Okay, so it is a fully managed service, which means it is actually a PaaS service. So PaaS is nothing but platform as a service, where Microsoft will take care of all the underlying hardware, okay, and also take care of everything about scaling and additional infrastructure, but patching everything. So all you have to worry about is basically take care of your data that you are going to use in Azure Cosmos DB, and also worry about how to optimize that functionality or Cosmos DB, how you retrieve data from Cosmos DB. Okay, because as you would know, utilization of PaaS is basically money. So each and every processing is going to cost you money. So it is very important that you ensure that you optimize your each and every request made to this service, so that you get your optimized performance at the minimum cost. Okay, so this is all about Cosmos DB. It's a PaaS environment, or you could say a database as a service, so provided by Microsoft. Okay, so what is so special about Cosmos DB? So when I say special, right, so you would have actually come across different types of database. You have NoSQL databases, you have relational type databases like MS SQL, PL SQL. You have NoSQLs like your Cassandra, MongoDB. So there are different types of databases. So what's so special about Cosmos DB? It is both a relational as well as a NoSQL database. So when I say relational, right, you could still query Cosmos DB just like how you would query in a PL SQL or a SQL Server environment. So when I say that, you could basically use the select star from table, so that query will still hold good in Cosmos DB. But when it comes to the storage, you will not have tables and rows or columns, right? So that is restricted to relational database. So that is where Cosmos DB differs here. So Cosmos DB stores database or stores its data in the form of documents or in JSON format. Okay, so when I say JSON format, it is basically consists of properties. Right? Instead of rows, you'll have properties within the document. So the storage will not be in terms of rows and columns. It will be in terms of documents and items. So that is where Cosmos DB differs from a SQL Server or a PL SQL database. Okay, so why use Cosmos DB? So there are different types of APIs that are provided by Cosmos DB, which I will explain to you in a while. Okay, so there are 6 different APIs, and each of those APIs are built on wire protocol, which means that particular service is going to mimic the real-time software. So if I say, like, there is, for example, you have MongoDB API, Cosmos DB for MongoDB, right? So when I say Cosmos DB for MongoDB, this API is going to mimic the entire effect of MongoDB. So when you move to Cosmos DB from a MongoDB environment, you will not have any sort of differences. All you have to do is basically change your connection string and the associated credentials, and your application will start working just like that. So all your implementations, your data layer methods will all be the same. Just the connection strings and credentials are the only ones that are going to get changed. So that is why it is very easy for a business to actually move from on-premise over to the Azure platform using Cosmos DB. So Microsoft claims that it is very easy for them to move over in a very short span of time. And also Microsoft provides you different tools to move from your native on-premise database infra to the Azure Cosmos DB environment. So with all these helps and support, it actually makes your migration that much more easier to move from on-premise to your cloud environment. So when I say move from on-premise to cloud, what are the advantages? So the first advantage is, like, you will need to understand what is capital cost and operational cost. Okay? So when I say capital cost and operational cost, capital cost is basically your investment, upfront investment that you are putting into your assets. Like, say you have a data center, you will need to buy bare metal servers, you will need to buy the licenses, right? You will need to spend on all those equipments to equip your data centers, right? Say you have your accessories, right? Accessories like your networks, your routers, your firewalls, your cables, everything. So all those come as part of your capital expenditure. Okay, so when you are in an on-premise environment, you will need to invest heavily on these upfront capital costs, right? So when you are moving into cloud environment, you will have to only worry about operational costs. So what are operational costs? Say this operational cost basically works on pay as you go method. That is, you only pay for the resource that you are going to use. Okay, so if I'm not going to use any of these services for a certain period of time, I don't have to pay for it, right? But in case of on-premise, whether you use it or not, you are going to pay upfront. So that is where you actually control costs in the cloud environment, right? So that is one of the advantages of Cosmos DB, right? So you are saving on your upfront capital costs. Okay, so the next one is basically your guaranteed speed. So the guarantee, how does Microsoft offer guaranteed speed? Okay. So what Cosmos DB or Azure does is, they are going to make use of global distribution. Okay, so Cosmos DB is a global service that is available across the globe. Okay, so for a user who is sitting in US, okay, and the database or the app resides in, say, Europe, the data is going to get replicated from Europe to US. Okay. So what happens in that case? Basically, instead of accessing the European database, or the user in the US is going to access the US database. So which will ensure the network latency is greatly reduced, and the speed of retrieval is faster. Okay, so that is what Microsoft says. So they provide unlimited storage for you. They'll take care of the storage. Okay, so all you have to worry about is your GB or TBs of data. You keep putting or you keep storing data in the Cosmos DB. The underlying platform will take care of all the scalings. Okay, so that is all automatic, right? So that is how Microsoft guarantees speed. And next one is basically your application development. So as I said before, all these APIs are based on open frame wired protocol. Okay, so which means Microsoft is basically mimicking the original database, right, or original environment. So when I want to move over to the cloud, I don't have to worry about re-engineering stuff. All I have to worry about is my connection string and the credential. Okay, so the underlying data layer is going to be untouched. So moving from on-premise to cloud is that much faster because you're cutting down on your engineering cost. All you have to worry about is migrating data and then using it in the Cosmos DB. So that is how simple your on-prem migration to database or your Azure is. Okay, Azure Cosmos DB to be precise. So third one is open source. As I said, it's based on wired protocol. So you're mimicking the entire environment. So you are not going to see any difference between your on-prem and your Cosmos DB. It's going to be the same, right? Whatever effort realizations that you're having in on-prem, you couldn't expect in Azure Cosmos DB as well. Okay, and the fourth one is basically because this is Azure based or Azure provides this service. This Cosmos DB is deeply integrated into each of these services. So when I say services, right? For example, you have Azure functions. Okay, so Azure function is, or this Cosmos DB is integrated with Azure functions in such a way that you could basically use Azure functions, to check for or identify any changes that you make in Azure Cosmos DB. Okay, and then based on those changes, you make your own processing on the data, and then you are giving the output to a particular service. Okay, so this is achieved through something called Cosmos DB trigger, which I will explain in later on the sessions. Okay, So that is how deeply the Cosmos DB is integrated with each of the services present within Azure. And you also have monitoring tools. You also have these calculators, or your Azure calculators, where you can calculate how much of resources I'm spending for each of my query within Azure database, which I'll actually show you in this session how you can identify. Right? So the fifth one is basically building apps in multiple APIs. So we have 6 different APIs present in Cosmos DB, which I will explain.